can't even explain it. Nah, maybe it's the way you look in my eyes. How I feel is beyond
What's good,
words.
y'all? It's your good sis Erica Bain back again with another insecure video. And in this video, we are breaking down episode 6. Let's get into it. Okay, y'all. So this episode is the fallout. Well, not technically, because the fallout actually extends over the course of a few episodes this season. But this is the episode that picks up right where we left off. Issa is driving home after sleeping with Daniel in the last episode. And at the start, she has a quick little mini fantasy scene where she thinks about the worst case scenario. So the worst case scenario is that she comes in, she tells Lawrence the truth, and he pimp slaps her till into next week in his fit of rage, right? Of course, we know that Lawrence wouldn't do this, but that's where Issa's mind goes. But when she actually walks in, she's definitely like having that in her mind. She's playing it a little bit different and really kind of like checking his temperature and is not really sure, but ultimately makes a decision not to tell him. And in the moment that happens, he also shows her that the ultimate thing that she wanted in the last episode, he actually took care of by getting the broken pussy video taken down everywhere. This sends her into even deeper spiral of guilt, which elicits tears from her. And she starts to communicate her love and appreciation for Lawrence. And it's so sad that it has to happen this way, y'all. It's so sad that her guilt prompts her to give the validation and the love and the appreciation that Lawrence has been looking for. And he literally says, like, I love all this love that I'm getting. It's so sad that she had to do this horrible act to get to a place of really registering what she has, that she doesn't want to lose it, and that she also wants to articulate that so that hopefully in the future she doesn't lose it. And now watching it, like after seeing season 4 and going back and rewatching the previous episode and this episode in particular, it's so even more nuanced to see, like, dang, she finally gave Lawrence one of the things that he wanted, but it was based on a lie and partly in some type of subliminal manipulation, right? Because she's only prompted to do this once she feels so guilty for an action that she did. She didn't just walk in and decide to reaffirm Lawrence or to really pour out her heart to Lawrence. She didn't just, was walking down the street and realize, you know what, my relationship ain't that bad, right? I'm smiling when I say this, but it's definitely intense. But I'm smiling because I feel like even in how they showed these first few minutes of the episode and the conversation that they're having specifically around this infidelity, it's a lot deeper than I originally saw once you go back and get the context of what they laid out in later seasons. And we do not finish up with Lawrence and Issa at the start of the episode until we actually get a moment where he tries to initiate sex. And what? Issa cannot participate and cannot get her head in the game because she is flashing back to her transgressions from last night. Child. Or from a few hours ago, actually. This is heavy, and we only 6 minutes into the episode. All right, let's talk about our girl Molly, who was waking up on a couch in Inglewood at Jared's house. Okay, let's get into it. Molly literally gets presented on numerous occasions with the truth around her if she gets checked with it, and I feel like she kind of like nibbles on it and then goes away to do some more BS, right? Like Jared asked her, like, what is going on? Why are you here? She actually cops to the fact that she mistreated him. He didn't deserve that, all of that, and they wind up getting back entangled with each other, highlighted by sex. That's one of Molly's key flaws. She needs to stop having sex with people so soon. Well, at least I think so, because she just don't be thinking clearly. Now, Jared is a solid guy, so okay, cool. However, the frequent sex, I think she uses that and for further attachment before she's really able to get to know people and see if she really likes them. And then she gets all disappointed by, them letting her down in different areas. So like initially Jared let her down because he didn't have a college degree. Well, that was pretty much it, right? He didn't have a college degree. He didn't have a job of the same stature as her, which is why she was so intrigued by all these little random league guys, right? And as we discover as this episode goes on, they have sex 2 times before they start having conversations about their past and their history, and they talked about college and some things. Molly talks about kissing a girl. He talks about letting a guy go down on him. And that becomes the tent pole that Molly cannot get around. It becomes the thing that she's just like, oh, absolutely not. It's the thing that she brings to her friend in quorum to be able to like discuss of like, okay, he's gay, right? Like, I need y'all to validate me in my BS that he's gay. Now, what I will say, and like really looking at this, I do understand what she's saying in reference to that being something that a guy communicates to you and you're not sure initially. I can understand that. However, it do feel like Jared went out his way to confirm to her, like, no, I'm not bisexual. It only happened once. I realized immediately that it was a mistake. And she does have all this other prior knowledge of, like, she really, really, really is into him. So I kind of wish she would have not necessarily made up her mind immediately, but I kind of wish she would have moved a little bit more delicately. Molly moves so knee-jerkly, right? Like, the moment you turn her off to something, the moment you disappoint her, the moment something isn't exactly how she wanted to be, she's going to pivot or switch on you. And it's just like, girl, like, take some time to process. Take some time to really, like, sort through your feelings, because she almost immediately starts acting different towards Jared behind this. And all the while, it's like, girl, he's not gay. He just had this experience, and he could have been a great guy for you, because this is like a one-off thing that you made an issue, but doesn't necessarily have to be an issue. But again, I do want to give her a little bit of empathy, because I can understand how initially it is an issue. It is very alarming to hear, because you don't necessarily know. And I've never been in a position, but I have definitely had conversations with people who have been in positions where they were dating somebody and that person turned out to be gay, and they felt very, very deeply distraught behind the emotional toll that it took on them to come to find out that they were actually messing with a download dude. So no girl actually wants to do that. But in this case, I don't think this is what we're dealing with. And I think that Molly was giving signs that this isn't what we're dealing with. But she goes head first into, like, well, no, he's on the down low. And back on Issa's side, because child, Issa and Molly show their collective asses in this episode. I'm gonna be quite honest. Issa, by way of her guilt, gets up early in the morning, cooks Lawrence a little bit of breakfast, and it is like a spread, honey. This is just looking real cute, real. I'm in this, and there's little moments of dialogue that just add to the tension, because Lawrence says things like, "Oh, I got me a real one," and he just affirms how amazing Issa is. And all the while, she is harboring this huge secret. She does breakfast, she plans a date night, and then later on at their date night, when they're coming out the movies, he takes her in to go look at engagement rings. And in that moment, she is flooded with guilt and sorrow behind, like, oh my God, I'm supposed to be in a place of just happiness, joy, and this is my future, but I did this to this incredible man. Like, I know that's what she's thinking. Issa, like, literally tortures herself in this episode. And after talking with Molly towards the end of the episode about her situation with Gerald and how she wished he wouldn't have told her because she can't really get over it, she had to end it because she just could not get past it mentally, Issa go ahead and reaffirms for herself that she's just not going to tell Lawrence. And we end this episode with her actually being able to have sex with Lawrence. She comes home and she initiates it, visually signaling, like, okay, I'm doubling down, I'm in this relationship. She's been showing that, but this is like the solidifier, right? Of like, okay, that's a closed chapter. I can now have sex again with my man. I'm not thinking about Daniel. I'm moving past it, moving forward. I'm not going to tell him. I don't want to mess this up with Lawrence. Boom, boom, boom. But when Lawrence gets up to go to the bathroom after, the seed gets planted about Daniel and the idea of Daniel, because he sees the text message from Daniel on Issa's phone. And it's like, God damn it. We gotta be quicker than that. You almost had it, Issa, but these chickens, they coming home to roost, sis. And that's how we end episode 6. This was a really great episode too. It was directed by the incomparable, amazing Debbie Allen. I do like the story that they were telling as they continued on after Issa's transgression. One of the big things that I really enjoyed about this episode was the quick conversation that the group had at the play, where they were just talking about sexuality and fluidity, and specifically speaking about Jared and when a man becomes gay, like what experience makes him gay. And there's a joke-ish comment that's like, a man is gay the moment his dick touches another man's dick, or he touches another man's dick, or something like that. And I just felt like, while this was a few years ago, there's something to be said about the conversation around sexuality and sexual fluidity. And for me, I really just feel like it's something that still rings true to what, like, common sense is, or what should be to me common knowledge. Like, check in and connect with people who you deeply understand and relate to and are for you. I think so often in relationships, we wind up, or when we're trying to get in relationships, we wind up settling, or we wind up taking things that we don't necessarily want, and we know that we don't want it because we just want to have somebody. But it's like, if you're sexually fluid, then maybe you should find somebody who's also sexually fluid. Like, people aren't wrong for the things that make them them, the things that attract them, and all of that, right? And it is a very fine line. There's a very fine line between, like, homophobia and preference and stuff like that. But specifically with that conversation that they were having. And I like how they explored all the different sides of it, right? Like they were talking about Issa was very much so on Jared's side, and everyone else was like kicking around ideas. Molly was very much so like, no, he's gay. And Issa's like, girl, it ain't that simple. Like, and you like him, so why not just go there? And for me, I think it's a little bit different with Molly in particular, because he's actually telling you this. He's not necessarily a guy who identifies as sexually fluid, like he identifies as a heterosexual male, and he's telling you this, but he had this one experience. So that is something for Molly to be able to work out and really process and be able to get past. I understand her initial qualms and her initial reservations behind it, but I feel like so often we wind up in these really random troubling situations because y'all aren't necessarily a fit to begin with. If you can't understand this person's lifestyle, you can't empathize, you can't understand, you can't respect this and that about whatever person, then maybe that's not the person for you to be with. Like, we don't have to force. There's millions of people on this earth. Like, and I say this about regular heterosexual relationships, right? Like in my family, I talk about there was some men who got with women who weren't as ambitious or who weren't as hardworking, and then those marriages failed because they felt unsupported and they felt like their partner wasn't as hardworking as they were. And it's like, but you knew that from the beginning, but you liked how she looked. And that to me is like a very trivial example, but it's an example of me just saying, like, you have to be really careful when you're vetting people, when you're bringing people into your life, and you just want to make sure that you align. Like, whether that's a romantic relationship, whether that's a friendship, make sure that you actually align with these people. But then also take the time to get to know people, to empathize with people, to see where people are coming from, and see how y'all fit in each other's life, basically. But overall, my favorite part was about that conversation because it's interesting to me. I know I definitely sit on the spectrum of, like, I don't know how comfortable I would be dating someone who is sexually fluid. I don't think I would be comfortable dating someone who identified as bisexual, but that's just me. It's not right or wrong. They are not right or wrong. So I like that, one, we got this conversation then, and then also I'm breaking down Grownish, and they also introduced this conversation into their season 4 storyline, and I'm really looking forward to seeing more media actually discuss the conversation around sexual fluidity and how couples are matched, and how people are dating with greater understandings and greater conversations around identity. That is my episode 6 breakdown, y'all. I hope that y'all enjoyed it. I am breaking down all of Insecure in prep for season 5. The 5th and final season is coming in October, and I want y'all to be ready, so I'm breaking down every single episode. If you miss any episode prior to, I will have my playlist link for you on screen right now. Be sure to hit the subscribe button, join the tribe, so that you don't miss any of my videos. It's your girl Erica Vane. I'm gonna see you tomorrow on the next one. Bye.